Hello Year 5s and welcome to your geography lesson today. I hope that you've had a wonderful week of learning and that you have remembered some things that we've been learning about Japan. So today we're going to be looking at our learning objective, which is to compare the life of a child in the UK with a child of Japan. So specifically with a school child and how their schooling life here is different to the schooling life as a child of Japan. Okay. So our big question today is, do all children in the world get taught the same way? What do you think? Do you think we all get taught the same subjects? Do you think we all get taught in the same way? Do we have the same sort of hours in a day for learning? So what do you think? Right. So on Teams, you can go and do your just checking. Here are your 4 questions, and you can then answer them on the team quiz for geography for today. So what does human geography mean? Okay, if you can explain to that, we learned that last week. What is the capital of Brazil? Write down the 4 main cardinal points, and the cardinal points is what you find on a compass. So that's my little clue there for you. What do we call those 4 main points on a compass? And what hemisphere do we live in? Okay, what hemisphere do we live in? And you can go and answer those 4 questions in your teams. So I'm going to move on now. Okay, as you said, our big question is, do all children around the world get taught in the same way? So let's explore some of these things. So as a fun starter, I thought you could do some sort of Japanese symbols. So obviously their writing is different to what we have, and their language that they speak is Japanese. So their writing is going to look different to what we have. So I thought it'd be quite fun for you just to do a little bit of sketching now. So you could do a little drawing on your piece of paper, just a bit of fun, a word in Japanese. So there is angel, star, beauty, power, friendship, moon, courage, peace, hearts, I repeated them, courage, peace, snake, truth, success, freedom, belief, dragon. Okay, so you can, let me just move that up because I repeated those. You can pause the video and then you can then copy out a Japanese symbol that you might want to put up in your room somewhere. Maybe it's something you could even have like the courage one. So that could be like a symbol for you. So when you look at that, you can then think about being courageous about something. So you can choose any one to do now. So that's just a bit of a fun starter, some words that are written in Japanese. Okay, so if you need to pause the video, pause it, and then you can complete that, and then we can move on. Right, so it says, what do you think a Japanese school might look like? So have a little think, maybe have a picture in your mind as you're thinking about that. All right, how would you describe it? So if you had to explain to me or a friend or your parents, how would you describe what that school would look like that you've imagined? What do you think the lessons might look like? Do you think they're going to have lessons like what we have? Okay. Or what do you think the teachers would be like? Do you think they're like us, or do you think they're quite strict, or what do you think? So have a little think about those 4 questions. So if you need to pause the video while you give that a thought, do so. And then let's move on. So on a piece of paper, you are going to be comparing the 2 different places. Now, you know what it's like to be a school child in the UK because you attend school in the UK. So what you're going to do is you're going to now think about Japan, and we're going to look at some information now about Japan schooling and what it's like to be a child in Japan. So could you please create a box? It might need to be a little bit bigger so that you have some space to write. And you're just going to be doing bullet points for me today. So on a piece of paper, you're going to set out your work with Japan, the UK, and then you can do this quite roughly because you're going to be typing it into the Word document on Teams. Okay, so this is just for you to do as rough, and then you can then make it neat on Teams. So you're going to be looking at the following topics: school life. So what's it like to be like in Japan? What is their lunch like, and what are their lessons like? And that is the 3 sections that we're going to look at. Sorry, my dog is barking a lot, so I'm just going to pause my video. Sorry about that, guys. Hopefully it's a bit more quieter now. So those are your 3 headings, and then you can put Japan and then divide your page up so that you can then write in the blocks, and then you can put the UK. So you're going to write a little bit about the life of Japan, someone that's in Japan. What happened there? Let's see if I can move that over. No, it's not allowing me to do that. Let's see if I try here. Oh, it really doesn't like me. Okay, you can understand what you need to do. Basically, you're going to have blocks and you're going to be looking at these three. So I'd write them down the side and then do Japan and the UK. And you are then going to put just some bullet point information. So we're going to look at some information now about what it's like to be a school child in Japan. And I'm going to look at some that are in the UK and then we're going to compare them. So you have got your two bits, all right? And we're going to be looking at the life of somebody in Japan. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you. And then you can have a look. So it says school life. Children start school at the age of 6 and are required to stay in school until they are 15 years old. They can then choose to go to high school, which is what most children do, okay? So a new school year starts in April after the spring holidays. So now pause the video and have a think about what is different in the UK. So when do you start school? Is it the same age? Okay. When do you go to secondary school? At what age do you go to secondary school? And when do we start school? Okay, and you can then put the bullet points here for Japan. So you can just summarize this. If they start school at the age of 16, and they must stay in school until they're 15 years old. They go to high school. They can choose to go to high school, and that they start their school year in April. All right. So you're going to do little bullet points for me under Japan and then little bullet points for me under the UK. So you need to pause the video and then you can do those. Right, let's carry on with a bit more of school life. So school starts at 8:30 a.m. and it ends at 3 p.m. So can you remember back to when school starts for you, or maybe ask your parents what time they had to get you to school by? And what time do they need to collect you? So what time does school end? But not all schools expect their students to wear a uniform. So that could be a little bit different there. So in Japan, not all children have to wear a uniform, but here, what do you think? So each class will have around 30 to 40 students in it. So think about your class and how small your class is. Now I can tell you both that we have got less than 30 children in each class, okay? So already there, they have a lot more students in their class than what you have. So imagine having about 10 more children in your classroom. So that's a bit of a difference there. They have 30 to 40 children, whereas we have less than 30 in a classroom. Throughout the year, they have events like sports days and school trips to enhance their learning. We have the same. I know we haven't been able to go on any of our school trips this year because of COVID, but we generally, under normal circumstances, we would be having school trips. We have sports days, okay? So perhaps you can then include that in both your blocks. So that's all about the school life in general, okay? So what they would experience general, when do they start school, when do they begin school, so what time of the year did they go to school, think about the lessons, how long they are, what their uniform is, if they have to wear one, and what are some of the events that they have at school. Right, now we're going to look at your lunch heading. So we're going to be looking all about their lunchtime. Now their lunchtime, let's see if theirs is any different or similar to yours. Lunches are eaten in the classroom and are healthy and nutritious. So there's a little bit of a change already. Okay, so in Japan, they eat their lunch in the classroom. So what happens here? They're often served with a carton of milk and vary between stews, curries, sandwiches, boiled vegetables, and salads, as well as dessert. So you could write that under Japan. What do you find in school here? And if you get a packed lunch, you would have a completely different sort of menu option to what children in Japan get. Teachers often eat with the students. Okay, so does that happen here? All right, do we eat with you guys? So put what happens in Japan and what happens here in the UK. Right. As part of their education, the students take it in turns to serve lunch to their classmates. They will also clean the classrooms and hallways in the morning and after lunch. It is seen as an important lesson about responsibility and mutual respect. So do you think that's the same here? So you're going to write that information under Japan. Remember, it's just bullet points. So it's just the key features. I just want the key words there. Okay. All right. And what happens in the UK. Right. The last block. And just remember, if you need to pause at any point, pause the video and then get that information down. Then you can unpause when you're ready. So the last one is lessons. So at the beginning of the day, the class will greet the teacher by standing and bowing to them. Okay, imagine you had to come into my classroom and you had to greet me and then bow to me. The teacher will return the gesture. So the teacher will then bow back to them, creating this mutual respect between them. Usually one teacher will teach every subject to a class. So that would be like, I would teach you all maths, which I'm kind of doing at the moment. But when we go back to normal school and you are back in the classrooms, Miss Malvena will teach maths to her class and I will teach maths to my class. In Japan, manners and respect for elders are very important, okay? And a teacher will expect the class to be quiet and listen for most of the lesson, okay, the majority of the lesson. So they have to be very well mannered. They have to put up their hand if they want to say something. They cannot shout out, okay? So pause the video there and do your comparisons between the two places. Right, so their lessons will include the following subjects. So think about what is similar, what subjects do we have, and what subjects do they do, and see if there are any things that are different. Maybe you'd want to go and have a lesson in Japan. So they get taught Japanese, they have to be taught maths, science, social studies. Now, social studies is like history and geography. Music, they do craft, which I suppose is very similar to art. PE, computing, English, home economics, cooking and sewing. Okay, home economics is when you learn how to cook and you learn how to sew things. The students may also be taught in more traditional art lessons. In these lessons, they learn about calligraphy and haikus. Haiku is a type of poem, and I'm going to show that to you later. And calligraphy is a style of writing. It's that very fancy kind of sort of joined cursive, but it looks really fancy. So have a think about what is similar and what's different and write those two comparisons in your blocks now. Remember, it's just bullet points. So you don't have to write in full sentences. So pause the video now if you need a bit more time. Right, and the last bit of information about the lessons is homework is set nearly every day. They get homework. It may be completing maths drills or answering sums or practicing and learning the Japanese kanji, which they use to read and write. Children are expected to learn around 1,000 out of the 2,136 kanji before they're 11. That's quite a lot more than the 26 letters in the English alphabet. So they don't have an English alphabet like we do. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z. They have a different system and they have to try and learn these sort of symbols, all right? And they have to try and do that before they're 11, okay? So they have to learn at least 1,000 out of the 2,000 odd symbols before they're 11. So that's a lot more than just learning 26 letters, okay? So you're going to do your comparisons for me now. So make sure that you pause the video whenever you have, and then you can use that to then copy over into the Teams document. Right, so this is your challenge activity. And as I mentioned earlier, a haiku poem. So in your Teams, you will see that there is a challenge as well. And I'd really love some people to really give this a go, because tomorrow we're going to be having our little meetups, and this will be something that perhaps would be lovely to share. So a haiku poem has got some sort of rules. It is a non-rhyming poem, so the words must not rhyme at the end. But what you do need to take note of is that it has 17 syllables, which are split into 3 lines of 5, then 7, and then 5. And a syllable is when you break up the word. So if I had the word poem and I had to clap it out, if you remember in your earlier years of learning, when you learned syllables, you would have clapped them out, I'm sure. So if you say the word poem, poem, it's only got poem. Right and own and writing would have 2 syllables, okay? So when you're looking at a word, Japan, you are breaking it up into those syllables, and that's how you clap them out, and that's how many syllables they are. So the way in which you write a poem is on the first line, you would have 5 syllables, Then you would have 7 on the second line and then 5 on the last line. So this is an example of a haiku poem. Butterflies are cool. So there's my 5 syllables. Butterflies are cool. So butterflies got 3, then R has got 1, and cool has got 1. So those are my 5 syllables. In the big, huge green forest. So there's my 7 syllables. They fly up so high. And there's my 5 syllables at the end. Okay, so see if you can do one about Japan. See if you can think about some of the things we've learned over the past couple of weeks about Japan, and see if you can write a haiku poem about it. Remember, the words must not rhyme. It's a non-rhyming poem. It just has to have 5 syllables, then 7, then 5. So think about things about Japan that you've learned over the last couple of weeks and see if you can write it into that Japanese style poem. And that is your lesson for today. I hope you have a wonderful day of learning. I hope you've learned something new about Japan and how different it is. And have a think about if you would prefer to go and be taught in a Japanese school, and do you think you would enjoy it? And otherwise, enjoy your learning for today, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye, guys.